Hello and welcome to the March 2018 Fire Chiefs video message. This month joining me in studio is Pete Perringer. Pete, welcome back. How you doing?
Good to be back. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
So we're rolling the March session. One of the things about March is how it is a transitional month between winter and spring. Really as it comes in like a lion or out like a lamb. Let's talk about, Friday, March 2nd and that day we had.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was a historic event or not, but certainly was a challenging day for us all. It started, we knew the storm was coming. They'd been talking about it for a couple of days, but about 1 o'clock in the morning, it started over on Bex Hill, West Bex Hill in Kensington, where a tree fell in a house, and the crews rescued a 100-year-old woman and took her off to the hospital. And then we had a fire over at Glen Echo Park. Right. About the same time, which was challenging to the firefighters, a lot of wind, and then it just kept going and going. So by the end of the day, it was pretty impressive statistics.
Right. So I mean, we knew it was forecasted to be a busy day and high winds and significant situations. There was some pre-planning done in advance of it on Thursday, and when we got through the overnight hours on Thursday night, Friday morning, like you talked about, it was pretty busy for what normally between midnight and 7 a.m. is a lower time of demand. As we started, the sun came up. We were looking at, I'm like, this is going to be a 650 or so call day.
Right.
350 is a general norm for us.
Right.
And ultimately, we did between 800 and 900 calls.
Yeah.
And I use the word 800 and 900 because that's just a description, because from midnight to midnight, it was right at about 900 calls. Traditionally, we do measure based upon the 24-hour shift cycle.
Right.
And the B shift cycle on Friday for 24 hours was just a little over 800 calls. The numbers were quite impressive. There was 250 some wires calls in that 24-hour period. What was it, 80, almost 90 trees on houses?
Yeah, and those were trees on houses too. They weren't branches or anything. I mean, those were pretty significant events in themselves. And most of those wires down involved fires. Mm-hmm. Of course, Pepco and the power companies were very busy. But you mentioned the pre-planning and the plans and the contingencies that we had, and they all worked. I mean, I don't think, as busy as it was, I don't think ECC went on red till much later in the day. So
yeah, I mean, they were definitely taxed, and everybody who worked, did a standby, came in extra on Friday is to be commended, and my thanks go out to every one of them, the command team, the management folks that helped support that day. There's no doubt that everyone was busy. As I use description, the unit that may run 2 or 3 calls a day ended up running a dozen. And the unit runs, 12 or 15 calls a day, ended up running, 20 or 30. And we did have extra utilities or support units and brush trucks out and about. 80 some trees on houses, and 5 or 6 of them were actually dispatched as entrapments,
right,
where we helped get people out of those houses. And as you say, those were trees, large growth trees, not spring chickens and lightweight issues.
And if I recall, I think our EMS volume was up about 100 or so. So it was an impressive effort by everybody, and maybe a good segue into talking about customer service. And I think that day certainly I think we shined. Everything I went on. In fact, I went by a couple of stations, and the crews were just hanging around the apparatus, in some cases sitting in the apparatus waiting for the next call.
Right.
As you said, it was extremely busy. So lots of opportunity to help out Mrs. Smith and do customer service. And from what I understand, things worked out pretty good for the community.
And that's the thing, is it was a good day that MCPS had canceled schools. It helped lighten the load and make it so that we could get around. There was a lot of discussion about that. But as you talk about customer service, one of the things I wanted to hit here today was some points that John Kinsley and I have recently provided during the officers meeting back in January when we did that cycle. Was our message to the officers, and through this video message to everybody, about customer service, and that is what our primary mission is. We are a customer service organization. Mrs. Smith Mr. John, Mr. Doe, the people who are the residents, the people that call 911, they are our customers and they need our support and assistance. And they don't care if it's our 3rd call or our 30th call. If it's 3 a.m. or 7 a.m., they still want and need and expect that good quality service. And one of the things is we, as the fire service, have always been part of that answer and solution process. Some things are absolutely within our wheelhouse. Some things are defined that areas that we deal with. But at the same time, we get odd requests. We get asked by the customer, Mrs. Smith, for certain things. Their abilities to help them with this situation or that situation. People ask me a question. Well, why do you send the fire department out to a flooded basement? And what's the fire department going to do with that? Well, naturally, we know our job is to prevent further hazard, prevent further damage. Our goal there is to isolate the power when practical, to ensure that there's not going to be an arcing electrical situation, and then provide some guidance to the residents as to how to manage that situation. If we didn't shut off the power, if that situation was not abated, downstream we could have, further complications from that. So that's another small example of how we go to assist. So when we get that phone call at the station from the resident who says they have this unique situation, can they help? Can we come out and help them? The most important thing that we always need to evaluate is if they're calling us with a need. They're calling us with a concern. And while we may not be able to provide a solution, coming out is key step number 1. Going out to Mrs. Smith's house or where that circumstance is and providing some information, providing some guidance, because we have a lot of capabilities and support, but also experience and exposure. I'm not saying that we are always going to be the one that can fix that situation. As the circumstance may be, but clearly what we may be doing is preventing another 911 call. We may be providing guidance and suggestions that prevents them from doing something that's unsafe or dangerous that would lead to another emergency there because of a bad decision made. So it's a lot of support that we can provide while not specifically being the solution provider. And one of the questions that we got was from the company folks when we were talking about it is, well, they won't let us do that. And we asked the question, what do you mean they? Well, they won't let us do it. And that's exactly what Chief Kinsley and I said during our presentation is, we are they. I and John are the they in the equation now, and we are telling, they are saying, go out and do it. When Mrs. Smith calls and has that question or has that concern or has that point, provide an opportunity, provide a solution. Reach out to your battalion chief or your LFRD chief officer and see, hey, this is something I'm not experienced with. What can I do, or how can I help that situation out? As we have a lot of capabilities within the department, there may be another part of the organization that has a pure means to help that you may not be aware of. So clearly that customer service approach and perspective is go out and help Mrs. Smith. Always be friendly, always be courteous, always be kind. As I use my other analogy, respectful and professional, and how we engage with them. Have you heard recent stories of great, I'm going to use the word non-traditional customer service that came about? Any stories passed on?
Well, I'm out and about quite a bit, and I get to go to the bad stuff, usually big incidents. But a couple things, you maybe wonder. You hear me say it all the time. We're fast, we're well trained, and be nice. So certainly that is true in my observations. But I've looked kind of an analogy from the EMS world, where we had the frequent users or the callers, and we would go out responding. So we have the ability in fire rescue to make that connection with other government services or agencies that can help if we're not the one that have the solution. And so I think that's exactly what we're doing. We're setting the table. We can go out, observe, maybe make the situation better for the person. As you said, when they call, they have a need or concern. Maybe nobody else to call. So,
and you used the word "set the table," and I'm going to, jump off of that to in a couple examples. We ran a call, car crash. One of the parties involved in the car crash had recently gotten a whole shopping cart, a whole load worth of groceries. That resident needed to go to the hospital, was injured, needed to go to the hospital, but was extremely concerned about, the shopping cart, the multiple bags worth of groceries, and was really focusing on that. Someone else is at home. Someone else is available at home. What did the company do? Company said, no problem, we'll take care of it. They grabbed the groceries, put them in the rig, dropped them off at the house. The patient, because she is a patient now, went to the hospital and her injuries were taken care of, and the company dropped the groceries off at the residence to another family member or friend that was there. Totally unbeknowing, that was a relative of a firefighter, but she was concerned about the groceries, and the company took care of it. Another example, similar type of situations, people were concerned about vehicles and how those things were going to be taken care of, and the company officer made the right decision, helped get the vehicle back to the person's property, to their home, and making sure it was secured so that the patient's medical conditions could be taken care of. And that's about that customer service approach, and it's where we want everyone to set back, pause for a second, think, and take that approach.
Well, and a huge customer service activity has occurred recently with the community risk reduction surge, with the smoke alarm law and so forth. Of course, we were just overwhelmed with calls and people with asking questions, but we were able to, with operations folks, to go out into the neighborhoods, do those safety evaluations. That's probably the ultimate customer service. Might be a little self-serving because we're making it better for everyone for early detection of fire. But thousands of homes were visited, and in a relatively short period of time. So to me, that's the ultimate customer service.
And we just went through our last week, and we went through our change of clock cycle, so we surely should have ensured that everyone checked their detector.
Yep.
And because they shouldn't have been changing the battery anymore, because they should have been sealed 10-year batteries.
And there's usually a benefit from what we do there. And what I've seen, my observations have been the fires where smoke alarms have activated, people have gotten out, where that always wasn't the case years ago. So, the work pays off, the community service does pay off. Countless times, people come, civic groups and community groups come to the firehouse, or we go to them and talk about the wellness and safety. So our senior initiative is a great form of community service. So, I think I see it all the time where the crews do seize the opportunity to engage with the community.
Right. So about customer service and about being ready, one of our key readiness points is training. When was the last time you were at the academy, or when was the last day when you were in one of the stations and you captured some training activities going on?
Well, it's not hard to do because there's, as you know, there's training going on, whether it be research or station level or battalion level. Obviously, we have a lot of training going on, many different levels, many different subjects at the training academy. So that's kind of low-hanging fruit for me to kind of observe what we're doing every day. But the training academy, of course, a lot going on, and I know the stations have a lot of activity, whether it be dynamic trauma care,
that's wrapping up.
Recertifications.
As you said, we're in the wrapping phases of annual research, coming down to the end of that. February and March carry that predominantly. Dynamic trauma care was significant in the latter part of the fall. There's a new initiative that was rolled out here in the last couple of weeks, MBT, or monthly basic training. That is just a point of multiple things that were on this screen of different training activities, meaning our MEMS protocol updates. I'm going to get back to MBT, but EMED's Elite. MEMS is updating the software itself, so there will be a change on that. We're going to be talking about our HIPAA training, and that's a recurring cycle, as well as the information security training. And then we have an in-service training module upcoming, anticipated to be or focusing on water safety or water operations for water rescue, and then some domestic violence training that'll be starting up in the summer time frame. But I wanted to touch base back on MBT, monthly basic training. One of the comments that had reoccurred a couple of times over a period of discussions was, tell us what you want us to be competent on in the station as chief. Tell us what you want us to have down pat, what core skills you want. And then we know, here's what we have to ensure on. We know we got these other training initiatives that come up and that we will accomplish and take care of. But what's that basic core training we need? And there was a couple different ideas thrown around about it. It used to be STP, our STP protocols that came out, and that was about a decade ago or so when that was available. So MBT is kind of the resurgence of that. It's a project spearheaded by Chief Pezos, where they're providing training material or a training plan, something that is deliverable at the station level, something that's focused into the company or small company size. But what's being planned is once a quarter. So those 3 months in that quarter will be broken out, one to an EMS topic, one to a fire topic, and one to a rescue topic. And with those topics, that'll be, as an example, high performance CPR. I'm going to use the word epinephrine, drawing and administering, rope rescue techniques from vehicle stabilization to knots and operations there, to hose advancement, ladder advancement, combination hose and ladder activities. So those MBT topics are going to be provided. There's already a beta out there, and that rolls out here in the April timeframe, with the intent of, here's the training topic, here it's going to be there, archivable as well. And then after MBT starts and goes, the LFRD chief officer, the battalion chief, will be able to validate or to measure the crews having completed that. And ultimately, if we get to an incident where we want to go back and, hey, we forgot that, we did that 6 months ago on the leader line evolution, and we just had a learning point from another organization about garden apartments and how to pull a 500-foot line or make up a 500-foot line. Let's go back to the May drill on leader lines and bundle packs, and everybody can reach back to that, touch it, grab it, review it, and it's always there as a training material. So thanks to Chief Pezos and the folks that are helping him and assembling the MBT information in conjunction with the academy staff, so that drill set is out there for everyone to use. So,
and that being said, there's also ample opportunity in this region for outside training, whether it be MIFRE, National Fire Academy, FEMA, or NCR. But there's a couple symposiums, EMS Today, EMS Care, coming up. There's some MEMA symposiums, the Women's Conference in Fairfax coming up. So, a lot of great opportunities to supplement and complement, what we're doing in the stations every day.
Yep, and that's the thing is, there's a lot of call volume, no doubt. There's also a lot of training opportunities, and as a day goes by, a busy day is a good day. A busy day when we're involved in self-improvement training and we're focusing on our basic skills, allows us to, at 3 a.m. or on the 30th call of the shift, to be ready for that basic skill. And when we're faced with the odd, the unknown, or the complex circumstance, take it and make it segments into small basic components that we've seen before, we can face that challenge and overcome it. So
yeah,
MBT.
And I thought about that to kind of regress back to the customer service, but your recent survey came out, the
County
national
survey?
the National Citizens Survey, I think it's called. That was recently done. Of course, we came out pretty favorable.
Public safety was
Public
high
safety,
in the county,
yeah.
with fire rescue in the top of that.
Yep, and I think a lot of that is because of the training and the focus that we have each and every day. Obviously, translates into how we're seen in our community. So,
Yeah. Cool.
Kudos to all those.
So, like I said, the MBT is just another point of the training plan that's on tap for maybe the next 6 or so months, as that slide showed. And at the same time, we talk about MBT continuing with our customer service, and surely we'll have busy days. Someone's forecasting potentially another nor'easter that may come and get to us in the next next week or so. So we've been lucky on that. It's been about 2 winters without a quantitative snowfall, but who knows? We aren't out of the woods yet.
Well, and I just came into my head that we have the awards, Valor Awards.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's the ultimate customer service. There are some community service awards, but a lot of good things go in there. So I hope everybody has the opportunity to be engaged in that, or certainly pay attention to what's going on there, because there's a lot of good work.
Good deal. So thanks for joining me, and I appreciate the information about the March 2nd, as well as the training activities.
Yep. By the way, did I mention I worked about 20 hours that day?
You did.
Yeah, okay.
You did.
Yeah.
So as we prepare to roll into April, hopefully, and we miss the next snowstorm, we always want to understand that our readiness starts long before we come to the station. Being ready the night before, the morning before your standby or shift is a part of being ready for that work period or that standby. So until next time, everybody take care, be ready, and let's answer those calls.